First up, we're looking for approval of the agenda. Motion and support, changes or additions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Public comment. Public, you have 3 minutes to address the board if you'd like to speak. And if you're up for an appointment, this would be the time to speak if you want to, or not. Okay, no public. Moving on to committee items, the minutes from the September 10th meeting. Looking for approval.
So moved.
Motion and support, changes or corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Takes us to appointments. First up is the Land Bank Authority. We have 2 open seats with no applicants, 1 nonprofit corporation representative and a township rep. We'll continue to advertise those. Also have the Community Corrections Advisory Board, same thing, an indefinite term, no current member, no applicant. Hopefully we can round somebody up. Maybe we can expand the scope of where we're looking. Upper Grand River Watershed Council, we have 2 open seats. Don Nelson is a current member and an applicant for 1 seat, and we'd be looking to send his name onto the full board. How about a support to that motion? Okay, no other nominations from the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, if I may on that one,
Absolutely.
figure out if that,
You're talking about the one,
Grand River Watershed,
well, there's a second one open there with Julie Shell, so
that's the one, yeah.
you're talking about, okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's glad that there's no applicants. We can figure that out by the time it rolls around next month. Department on Aging Advisory Council, there is an open seat there with no applicant. We'll continue to advertise. On the new Jackson County 911 Advisory Board, we have a total of 8 seats to fill. 2 of those, the first 2 are picks by the sheriff and the Michigan State Police. The designated reps are Sheriff Rand with Under Sheriff Cool as his alternate and First Lieutenant Kevin Rod. The 3rd pick and 4th pick are the same way. It's the City of Jackson Police Representative, which is designated as Elmer Hitt, and the Fire Representative from City of Jackson is Deputy Chief Dave Wooden. So the ones after that, at least the Township Police Representative, there were an application received of Michael Jester, and I'd like to add that to forward all of those onto the full board along with the EMS rep, Carl Rock. And Mr. Chair, is the commissioner pick your pick, or is it by committee? Had we decided? Okay,
Agreed to serve.
we'll forward that on with the rest. So if there's no objection or no nominations from the floor, I'd like to forward that full slate of appointees to the advisory board.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. The Township Fire Rep, I believe they have a meeting coming up soon, and they will make a recommendation for that slot. Mike, do you know when they meet?
I think it's next Thursday.
Okay, so it'll be after our board meeting. We can make it in November then. Okay, that takes us on to the EG semi-annual BRA and EDC reports. Debbie, good morning.
Good morning. Amy Torres and I have prepared memos on both boards for the EDC and both the JCBRA. But one thing I would like to point out regarding the JCBRA is on September 20th, JCBRA and Envirologic staff held our first Jackson County Community Redevelopment Progress Report at the Gumper Exhibition Hall at the Fairgrounds, and it was a great success, and I want to thank each of you because the county had a huge part in that. Commissioner Shotwell was there to do the welcome, kind of explain what was going on at the fairgrounds. We had MDEQ there with a table to kind of demonstrate what's been going on at the Missioner site. We also had a table with the JCBRA with Envirologic to showcase a lot of our successful projects. Clavons, for example, Great Lakes Industry, JD Auto, there were a couple more. So I want to thank each of you, and especially you, County Administrator Overton, for dealing with the sprinklers I got a very nice picture of him taking care of sprinklers that evening. So I just want to thank all of you for helping us make such a great event that evening. But with that, we don't have a lot of activity going on with the EDC. We did have one loan just pay off from Crown Industrial Services. But other than that, I'm here to answer any questions.
Commissioners, document was attached, fairly thorough. Any questions of Debbie on the first? Okay, hearing none, if you'd move on to the next one. You have, was there a second item that you had, Deb, or no?
Nope, just the
Okay.
JCBRA and then EDC.
Okay, very good.
All right, thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Okay, next up would be Mona with the Register of Deeds semi-annual report.
Good
You're limited to
morning.
20 minutes, Mona.
I'm going to make this real quick. You've got all my notes attached. I don't know if you have any questions. We're doing pretty good based on our budget so far. With county transfer tax, we're where we should be. Some others are slightly below, but I think we'll probably still bring them up. Our documents, we're a little less than we were in 2017 as through September, but I just ran a report this morning. We're even less than that 1241 decrease. We're less than 1,000 now, so I'm sure that'll end up coming out ahead. Mortgage foreclosure, sheriff's deeds, we continue to drop every year. We're at, again, 35 less right now than we were last year. And I attached the breakdown for the townships for all of you to see your townships. We've e-recorded 8,091 documents through September, which includes all the treasurer's documents. We continue to increase percentage-wise of e-recordings, which really benefits our office with such a small staff. E-recordings are much quicker than, it's hard to believe, but paper, taken out of an envelope, taking the staple out, scanning it, running it through, where e-recordings are instant, almost. So we're really grateful for that. The kiosk queue flow that we have on the second floor has always helped to show kind of what our office deals with in the way of customers. We've already taken care of like 4,162 customers that take tickets for anywhere from recording a document, for setting them up to research, for questions, copies, and that doesn't count the tickets or those that don't take tickets, which are UPS, FedEx, the title companies, which daily drop off huge packages of e-recordings for us to process. Is there any questions?
Commissioners, any questions of Mona? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the equalization apportionment report. Oh yeah, Ruth is hiding there. Okay, great.
Here.
Good morning, Ruth.
Good morning. As you know, every year in October, your annual meeting, you have to approve the millages levied by each local unit. We did have a little bit of a problem this year getting a couple of them in, so the packet that you have did not have a signature on it. I hadn't gotten Liberty Township or Jonesville Schools. They did come in late Friday, so I've amended the report, and I have a signed copy here that I will scan and get into your packet for the full board. Is there any questions that you have about apportionment at all?
Commissioners, any questions? If not, we need a motion to send this to the full board, and Ruth will have the amended documents. What? Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is the approval of the MPSC resolution. Under Sheriff Cool. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Before you, we have actually three different things that you need to take action on. We'll talk about them kind of high level, and then we'll talk about the financial issues. But we have a co-location agreement, and that essentially is the signing of the documents permitting us to have our equipment for the Jackson County simulcast on the two state-owned towers, which were part of our system. The next thing is a resolution for those co-location agreements for the Attorney General's office, authorizing the chairman or whoever the board's pleasure is to sign those agreements. having the full force and authority to do so. And then lastly is the memorandum of agreement with the state of Michigan and DTMB, basically about our infrastructure, what we've put into the system, and then eventually our credits that are applied to the count at the state level, which are used for a variety of things within this program. The resolution and co-location agreement are pretty much on their face what they are. We have equipment up there. They are currently on those towers. So really this is just a formality. I've looked through all the documents. I don't see anything within the co-location agreements that's not directly what we agreed to within the Motorola agreement. And the resolution was drafted and put before the Attorney General. They said the language is sufficient. So those two documents are kind of what they are. On the memorandum of agreement, as you probably saw in the board agenda packet, there's this dispute, let me rephrase that, there's this disagreement on the amount of credits applied between myself and the state of Michigan. And this has been a very long-running issue since about July, late June, July with me. And you probably all recall, for those of you that were present, a number of presentations were done, and they agreed to, or initially said that a 10% credit would be applied to our account for infrastructure that we bring into the system. So we are calculating that to be roughly about $460,000, $70,000 based on the $7.1 million in infrastructure. And we have a number of emails that reference that 10% agreement. Initially, when I started reviewing some of these early documents, I saw this 5% credit in there. I addressed that with MPSCS, multiple levels, both with the initial staff that I was dealing with, and then also the higher levels, mid-levels, and then eventually Mr. Stoddard. Essentially, they say that that was a mistake, that it should have been 10%, that it was 5% all along, and they waived the fees. They waived the yearly fees, a $250 per device fee. That happened right as we were making decisions to come onto the system, or we had made the decision to come onto the system. Essentially, they said because those fees were waived, that infrastructure credits are now 5% and have been. That was a mistake on their behalf. So we've gone back and forth. I've showed them the emails that I had that reference the 10%. They acknowledged they did initially say that, but that was a mistake on their behalf. And so that's kind of is what it is. So they indicated, well, I'm taking some liberties, but it sounds like they implied that we were the first county to come onto the system since the $250 per device fee per year fee was waived. So maybe that was a little bit newer. They didn't catch it. Either way, let's get down to the actual dollars and cents here. So we believe that our mic fees are going to be about $200,000, high 190s. I don't believe they'll exceed 200. If they do, it would be by a few dollars, not significantly more than that based on the devices we have out there. We were planning to use that infrastructure credit towards the application of some of the other things like the tower maintenance, the preventative maintenance, tower inspections, etc. And with that, I think our credit, as I have in the documents, is $235 about. That's what they're willing to apply to the account. And with that, you still have your mic fees that are covered, so those will be covered there. So then you wind up with about, let's say, roughly $30,000, $35,000 extra in credits. So you could look at it a couple different ways. You have probably at least a year, if not maybe more, of tower maintenance, or we have to pay the NCC cost for monitoring of the system, which is about $10,000 a year. I think $9,900 was the exact figure. So you'd have about 3 years, maybe a little bit more of NCC fees. So you will have the mic fees, or you should have the mic fees along with a little bit left over. It wasn't quite what we were expecting, but at the end of the day, it just is. I've addressed it. I've questioned it. I've spoke with them. Their analogy makes sense. So at this point, does anybody have any questions about that, or does anybody have any concerns?
I just got a couple, Chris, but you've hit on the one. I've got multiple emails, I think, from Mr. Stoddard himself talking about what the percentage is when I questioned it months and months ago, so I'm not happy with that, but I think we're in a position we don't have much of a choice, probably, I guess. Chris, I looked through one of the documents. I can't find it now, but it went to great lengths to explain what our system would be capable of, and it talked about, I think, paging and alerting. And one of the other things that we had talked about in the training anyway was the ability for fire departments to page on the paging system. And I don't see that listed in here. Is that something that should be listed, or is that something that will be functional? And you know what I'm,
It is functional, and I know that because we have the paging groups, both page fire, page rescue, in the fire radios. I can go back and ask them why this is not in the agreements. My impression is that this was it was a functionality of the system. We bought the system, and within that system is the functionality, and it'll work. It's just whether we chose to use it or not. My impression based on this project, that was not some kind of a la carte item that we were getting where we needed to add on. It was functionality in the system. Some people chose not to use it, or maybe it wasn't as advanced, or maybe the equipment wasn't quite ready. So I'll clarify that, but I don't think this is something extra above and beyond that needs to be noted in there.
okay. John, did you have a question?
It was just to the question of the, is the parity in terms of the fees being waived for the radios and the 5%, is that ultimately what, I mean, is that their justification, is that there's a saving on the front end in terms of the fees being waived for the radios to reduce it from the 10 to 5%? And then have we looked at flipping that around in terms of paying for the radios to have that 10% credit back? What's in the long run, would we ultimately save dollars on it if we turn that around? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
well,
looked at it.
absolutely. And that's, you hit the nail right on the head. That's exactly what they're saying, is that, they used to have, which was kind of one of the big prohibitive issues of bringing people on the system, is that the state wanted to charge you $250 every year per device. So you're talking handheld and portable radio or vehicle-based radio. So $594, you're looking at almost 800 radios in this county. You can see where the cost adds up to that pretty quick. So it is far more advantageous to pay the one-time $250 programming fee or activation fee, whatever they'd like to call it. It makes sense. It was misinformation. I'm not happy about it, but I suspect that probably happened. So we would certainly be much farther ahead by not continuing on with that, $250 per device per year.
Okay, any other questions of Commissioners? Phil?
When you will be fully up and running on the new system, an estimate?
Man, I would love to. Unfortunately, I don't have that answer. We have encountered a number of challenges recently, both with subscriber units that we have distributed that had incorrect programming in them, whether it be from the code plugs from the state. We've encountered some challenges at dispatch with the councils, and now we are encountering challenges with the system itself. These are all things that we're working through. I don't see any one of these things being a death knell, but we're kind of in a holding pattern right now, because a couple of the primary things that need to happen are, let me take a step back. We fired the system. We know that the system talks to each other. It's not suitable for voice communication yet. It's not timed. It's not computerized or digitized with each other, where all the simulcast transmissions come out clean and clear. We just know that the system can acknowledge each other, it can see each other, and it can talk to each other, both the microwaves and the voice side of it. So within that, there's a group within the state of Michigan that comes in and essentially, I would describe it as fine-tunes the system. They optimize the system, and they basically get all the timing down to milliseconds, so all of these 5 towers are talking to each other, all sequentially at the same time, a very advanced digitized type of functionality. Because there are so many counties coming online right now, we're kind of at the mercy of them. My impression is they're doing perhaps Kent County right now. This is a process that could go very easily as little as 2 weeks. It could be a process that goes very long as 5 weeks. We can't go out and do the field acceptance testing where we go in and test every square mile of the county, both with equipment that Motorola has to make sure they've complied with the contract, and then an actual voice transmission in and out. We can't do that until the system has been optimized, because it essentially won't work. So we're kind of at the mercy of those two things right now. I think we've made good strides and good headway at dispatch with the councils, and have addressed some of the issues that we've encountered down there that we didn't expect. So hopefully that side of it can be wrapped up within about the next 15 to 20 days. Our hope is late October, very early November. Hopefully the system optimization can happen very quickly thereafter, or maybe even in conjunction with that. And then hopefully a field acceptance testing, or the field testing done in late November, early December. And once that's done, we are essentially off to the races, assuming that all the users are prepared to use it. So, ideally, I would like to see a December usage, but probably we're looking at, with the holidays and everything, considering whether it be December or January, it just really depends on how fast a couple of those final legs go. I don't necessarily want to rush that. That's a very critical piece because we need to make sure that what we bought complies with what Motorola said it would. So
Is the current system still fully functional for you, or?
it is functioning. We've had to make some fixes, but that's normal, part of running a radio system. Nothing significant, nothing expensive. We've been trying to hold off on those things, but as we get a little closer, I'm hopeful that before the end of the year, that'd be
Thank you.
beneficial.
You're doing a nice job, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll comment briefly that I was absent a month ago from this meeting because I was at training with the undersheriff and many others, and came to learn a lot more about how well the system's going to work for us, and we've done a very good thing for public safety, police, fire, and medical in our county by doing this, and we're going to be appreciative for a long time to come, I think, and I do appreciate it. So we have a number of issues here to forward down to the full board. They all take full board action, so I'm okay with putting them all together in one motion to send them on to the full board. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thanks, Undersheriff. Oh yeah, you have another floor proposal. Go right ahead.
Yes, I'm here before you looking for approval to move ahead with a proposal from Choice One Floors. This is kind of a unique situation. I hesitated to call it a sole contract or sole provider bid, but they are using a unique product and they're the only installer for it in this region in Michigan. Essentially what we've run into is the floor primarily at the Wesley Street kitchen. We replaced that about 10 or 11 years ago with a commercial tile functionality. We've had a number of problems where we had to make a number of stopgap repairs both around the drains where we've pulled some tile out and tried to remediate some things, but basically the moisture has permeated the underlayment and the subfloor. It is no longer a sanitary type of condition, and it's degraded to the point where it needs to be replaced. We got a couple quotes working with facilities. Initially, we sought out a tile quote from a local contractor, a local flooring company that was a commercial grade product, much like we had. That was fairly expensive. We then came across this Protect Off flooring that Choice One Floors installs, and essentially it's like a one-piece membrane or layment, so much like you'd find in a commercial or industrial facility. We are hoping to give that a try, that this will fix the issues, only because everything needs to be ripped out in the kitchen. The moisture penetration and problems on the subfloors needs to be remediated, which they're willing to do at no cost, and then this membrane put down, so they're going to include within that pulling out the drain basins and fixing those where they connect. And in conjunction with that, our single-man cell, or what we call the detoxification cell, or cell 1E, on the first floor is in a similar situation, although it's only because we've continued to try to repaint that with traditional methods over a number of years. The inmates pick it off, it becomes exposed, it presents hazards. We've not found a good solution to that. We've had them evaluate both of those spaces. I think it's a suitable product for those spaces. So we're looking for approval for that $37,650 to move ahead with this proposal from Choice One Floors to have this single membrane installed. It is primarily used in commercial facilities, animal care facilities, healthcare facilities, dealerships. There are a couple correctional institutions outside of Michigan that use it. We will be one of the first ones in Michigan to use it, although it's very similar to what probably you've seen before. It sounds like it has some unique traits and qualities. So we're looking to move ahead with that. The funding is going to come from a couple different areas, both the public improvement for buildings respective to the county jail, and then also a small amount of CIP funds that are left. I spoke with Rick about this on Tuesday or Wednesday in regards to this, and we talked it through, and he was satisfied in his questions.
Go ahead, sir.
So how long is the kitchen going to be down? Are we moving inmates over to Channing Road during this process, or how are the logistics going to work for, keeping people off that? Because obviously you're going to have downtime there.
Sure. That was one of our concerns. They believe they can have that done in about 4 days to a week, and I say a week as 7 days, not business week. So we have a plan for that with our food providers that we're going to do a couple different things. Number one, a couple primary meals, so probably the breakfast and dinner will just be fully made at Channing Road and brought down on basically service trays, if you will. And then the lunches would be bagged lunches for that period of time. This is the same type of thing that we do if we were to lose some type of process within the kitchen, or if let's say the kitchen got tagged out because maybe it was not cleanly or whatever. This is one of the backup plans. So within that food service, we have to have these fail-safe plans if something was to happen in the kitchen or food service, and that would be the route that we would go. And those meals still meet all the dietary requirements.
Chris, where's this contractor out of, Choice One?
Choice One is out of the metro area, Farmington area. And the provider of the product is out of Oscoda,
Okay.
Michigan companies.
Commissioners, any other questions? If not, it gets approved at this level, be looking for a motion for approval for the project and the amount.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thanks, Under Sheriff.
Thank you.
J.C. Dodd. No, Chris? Should be a short meeting.
Yes, I was going to tell you that, but. So the first thing we have is the slag bed. Blast furnace slag is what we use on our chip seal program. It's a routine thing. We're asking for 2,000 tons for this year to fulfill our requirement for next year's chip seal. And there was 2 vendors. One was significantly lower, and so we're asking that the levy company be provided the contract.
Huge difference in price. Any guess why, Bob, or no?
Sometimes it's hauling, sometimes it's,
That's what they
you never know.
have in their yard usually.
Yeah.
If they don't have it, and they
Quantities.
have it shipped.
I see.
They have
Okay.
the same spec though.
Commissioners, we'd be looking for a motion for approval to the amount of 48.3, which would be at this level.
Make a motion, we approve the purchase of the slag for JDAT.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Norval Road contract.
I'll leave the next 2 for Angie.
All right, Norville Road contract, both items you have, Norville and then the preventive maintenance are contracts for the purchased federal aid. So when you look at the write-up there, you see that typically our federal aid contracts are an 80-20% match. These are overmatched due to them being purchased. So it's kind of a, I don't want to say game, but we have to overmatch them so that if they come in under budget at the bids, we don't lose the purchased federal aid we bought. So these ones, Norville Road was actually one that was on the tip. It was a smaller section of it. And when we purchased the federal aid, we did 2 sections. So we're completing an entire stretch of Norville from Sharon to East Michigan. It's a crush-and shape with the overmatching there. The contracts, since we wrote this up, the bids came in Friday. And they were about 5% over this amount, which was way better than the contract we had last month. So we're asking for approval here for the contract for Norville Road Crush and Shape project.
So Angie, the overmatching part you're talking about with the federal aid, that isn't diminishing the value that we got by buying that, does it?
No. So when we do this, the way we write the contract, typically when it goes on a normal project, we ask them to do an 80-20 split. So whatever it comes back at bid, we pay 20% of it. This one, when they write it up, it says that they'll maximize the federal dollars first. So if it came in under budget, they'll use all of the federal aid and then adjust our match. So they write it differently for us. But we don't want to be in the position where they can't adjust our match, and it would be below the 80%.
Okay.
And then the money for the match is coming out of that 30,
Purchase.
yeah, the bond.
Right. Phil?
Good morning.
Good morning.
When is this slated to be done? I represent Norville Township, it's always a question, so,
Yep, it will be done first thing in the spring.
spring of 19?
Yep.
Okay, now, on the match,
Wait, can I take back first thing? I don't know exactly until we award to the contractor, but we're hoping first thing in the spring. It will be done next year.
if the project should come in under budget, The savings would go to our 20% match?
Correct, instead of deducting off federal aid.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioners, any other questions? Goes to the full board, looking for a motion on the necessary action items.
So moved. Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Preventative maintenance contract.
So this is the same thing, it's got to overmatch. This was set up specifically to, when we purchased those federal aid dollars, so it wasn't on the tip anywhere. So this is completely benefiting our system. These roads are ones that are in good shape, so we're putting a 2-inch cap on them to prolong the life of them. So you see the list of roads there, and they're just a 2-inch resurface, and we'll touch up the gravel shoulders when we're done.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions on this? Again, it goes to the full board, so we can move the complete package.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Pothole patching, public-private partnership. It's a lot of Ps.
That's you, Bob.
That's back to me.
Angie, when will that last approved project fly? Right.
Next year. We did leave it open for them if they had room in their schedule to start this year, but with the shutdown, I do not believe any contractors really have room to start. I'll let you guys know if they ask to start this year, but most likely next year, and then they have till November 15th, I believe, to get that done. Because it's a good list of 20-some miles of roads that they're resurfacing.
Thank you. Bob?
This is the same program that we asked for this year and completed this year. The crews, we did have 15 crews working for us this year, and they shoveled off over 5,000 tons of asphalt patching potholes. Think they did an excellent job, and so we're basically asking to do the same thing. The prices actually came in a little bit lower this year because they kind of knew what to expect, and so last year we were anywhere from 115 to 120 per crew, and this year it's 95 to 100. We could possibly take on more crews at that point to get it done a little bit quicker, but it's really the same process that we did this year that worked pretty good.
So Bob, my look, it's 10 contractors, so some have multiple crews if you got 15 crews?
Yes. If you look on the bid tab, at the bottom it'll say 2 crews for Jackson, or and so there's multiple crews there for each one.
And then my only comment, I was liking what I was seeing as I traveled the county on the work that they were doing, but I did hear comments at a couple different meetings about the safety of the crews and about emergency lighting for them. You're making efforts to make sure that's all safe.
Right. Well, we did check all the lighting, right at the beginning. All the crews got their vehicles went through. We did have a couple issues where lights weren't working or something right at the beginning, and the guy that's taking care of that program addressed them immediately. They fixed them. We had 1 or 2 complaints where they were playing their music a little too loud while they're out there working, and so we addressed that with them. But all in all, I think they did well, and I think everybody was quite pleased with them.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions about John?
And that was really the question. Obviously, you guys went back through and checked the work and make sure that it's just not slung over or around, because you do see that or hear that from individuals. Everybody's an expert on how you fill potholes properly, and so you did have some critique.
We did have 3 people that were out there kind of coordinating and watching them. Okay. Each person was assigned basically 5 of those contractors to go out and watch, and they went out every day or the following day to look at what they did, and if they had any issues with them, they sent them back. And like I said, they all now understand what's expected, and that's actually what drove the price down, I think, a little bit, because they weren't sure last year. But yes, we do go and check every day or the day after as to what's been done.
Excellent. And then also, we're in the process of, or making, I guess, the effort to purchase the pothole filling machine.
Yes.
Where is that in the?
It's been purchased. You guys authorized that. It's
right.
Being constructed. It's in Regina, Canada, is where they're built, and we're just waiting for it to show up, I guess. So, I'm interested to see it come to, because we can use, when we get later in the year and we're using our reclaimer to recycle the hot mix.
Yeah.
We'll be able to use that this winter with that,
That's exciting. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
hopefully.
I see out in your parking lot, it looks like a brand-new semi-tractor
Yes.
with 3 axles in the back.
We have, actually, that's one of 2 that's coming. This is a triaxle tractor that is going to pull and we got the new lowboy too, that'll pull the 3800, the recycler. So we've got the one triaxle with the lowboy. We're waiting on the other triaxle that will pull the trailer that has the 2 rollers on it.
I thought we were not going to do the triaxles.
No, we did 2 triaxles and we did 3 tandems instead of, we were originally going to do 5 triaxles to have just a backup. But yes, we changed it to 3 and 2. It has to have a triaxle underneath the quad axle lowboy for the 3800 for the weight.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, just a couple more questions on this program. So is this the same amount we approved last year, $1.5 million?
It's actually, we had, the original one was $1 million, then we came back and asked for $500,000 later. We're not intending to have to use it, but that way we don't have to come back and ask if we get close to that.
Yeah, that was the point. I think I'd read that somewhere. And the fact is that our crews are potentially still going to be out there doing the same thing as time allows, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if no more questions, we need a motion to send it to the full board. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Monthly report.
Okay.
Big PowerPoint, a lot of pages.
We can go through every slide if you like, or Angie's got a couple things she wants to address.
Go ahead, Angie.
Just some highlights really quick. I did touch on the fact that the preventive maintenance in Norville Norville's missing from that sheet, but Norville were in the bids Friday, and they were about 5% over the estimate. So those will not be rejected. If you read on King, we rejected that bid because it was over the 10%, and we have the right to reject. So those ones will be awarded, and I'll get you guys information on those projects when we have a pre-construction meeting. Really quick, the statewide labor dispute or lockout is over, so the township work is going in Spring Arbor again. They tell us that they're going to be able to get everything done in both Spring Arbor and Summit Township. We actually added one road to the Spring Arbor contract this year, McCain Road, because the lockout was happening and Michigan Paving needed some work. It was a project that was going to be paved next year, a resurface. But with the prices and the availability, we added it to get it done this year. So McCain, and it's still going to be under the contract amount you guys awarded. So that's been added. The CIR projects are being resurfaced. Matthews and Harrington are the only ones that do not have the top course on them right now. Those will be paved as weather allows. I think they're on Harrington today if the weather will allow them to pave. That's all I have for engineering. Did you want to cover anything for operations?
I just wanted to cover, basically, it goes along with the bid that you just did for the local road paver patching. That is done this year, it's all completed. We actually added a few extra little spots here and there where we needed to. Couple in like Plasky Township and Hanover Township, and then one in Blackman for Bond Steel. That's done. But I think, again, they did an outstanding job. I think our crew, this is what our crews did. And the skills and ability that they've got this year and have picked up this year is like greatly over what we've had in the past. We've got a couple new people on that crew that have a lot of experience, and they're on and offs for the wedges are excellent. They actually also did I'm gonna draw a blank. The road that runs between Lansing Ave and 127, Andrews. That was our crews that did that too. So they did a good job on.
And the residents are very appreciative of that.
Yep, that turned out very well.
Yep.
Except for the speeding now.
Which we have our signs.
Yeah, I want to see how you're going to put them back.
They've reached almost 34,000 people with those signs on Facebook.
I saw that. I've got 3 questions for you real quick. How many miles do you think you've done so far with our new equipment, cold-in-place recycling?
12, I think.
12 to 14, yeah.
Okay,
We're not done yet.
great.
We'll still have 2 subdivisions that will use the KMA process.
And is the asphalt cement problem still a problem or not?
The liquid
Yeah.
for it?
No, that was just a short time. They were waiting on a barge to refill their tanks, and we haven't had an issue with it since then.
Okay. And then lastly, in the 24-page PowerPoint thing, you've got one slide that shows 3 different companies, not our people, working in the right-of-way. That's
Oh,
page
yes.
18, I think, or, I'm sorry, 21.
Those were our safety guy, Mike Rand, went out, and as he's out and about, he takes pictures of things of our people along with the contractors, and if we see things that aren't right, we bring them to their attention. And
So what can we do besides just bringing it to their attention? I mean, they're getting a permit to work in the right-of-way, correct?
Yes.
And if they don't correct it, we could deny a permit to them, or what?
Yes, we could.
Because I see this a lot. I mean, these pictures you see just about every day.
Yep, and
Yeah, and
it
people-
almost always deals with either the traffic regulator or the setup of the cones for the tapers.
But the bad part is that people think it's road department crews.
Yes.
When it's usually not, so. That's
Mike's
it.
really good about that, and Jim that deals with all of our other contractors, they're really good about getting on them and saying, hey, this isn't appropriate, and they normally fix them fairly quick.
Or they shut them down if they're not going to fix them.
Okay, commissioners, any other questions? John?
Just more of a comment. I happen to be imbibing with a Summit Township official, and the program that, with the millage and the program that you have going out there, he just said it has such an impact, a positive impact upon the community as the roads begin to get laid down, and it really is, if you think about it, the face of your government is really seen in the roads, and how important that is, and to really see that transformation. And I just wanted to convey that back, and how important that is really to the community, to know that their government's working for them, that it's not going in some pit. You know, they don't see necessarily the day-to-day and everything that the county ultimately does, or it impacts certain individuals who, are within a formulary, whatever the case may be. But the roads are something that everybody recognizes and everybody sees, and when you start doing a full community of roads like that, it just really is having a positive effect. It's as this individual said, it was the best millage that they could have possibly passed. So, just
Thank you.
convey that on to the team, and I'm hopeful that we're able to continue to keep it going, so.
I just want to add to that real quick. We've been doing the Blackman meetings, and actually in the PowerPoint we're doing there, we have pictures of Spring Arbor and Summit that we've taken where people are riding their bikes and walking their dogs on the new roads. There's a lot of people out and about using those new roads, so it is a great improvement to the community.
Chairman Shotwell?
Had a chance to speak with members of the employees, and they really appreciate the effort you guys are making and working with them and treating their ideas and innovations and things like that. Working together, it's being shown, and I really think it's a different culture at the Road Commission from 10 years ago.
Yep.
I really believe that, and I think that you're the leaders that are doing it, and it's impressive that your administrative staff is doing it the way you are, and I like the fact that we got some people trained for safety. That's very important in September, and I believe our road commission, our JDOT, is really going to be looked upon as how to do things, and you can see the difference just in curbs and gutters and driveways and that versus the work that was done just across the corporate line. And I'm really impressed with with the way you guys have made sure everything is done, from mailboxes to driveways. It's really made a huge difference. And also the timeliness of your answering of problems. I know that we had a water issue over on 18th and Morel, and come to find out, consumers had bored through a storm drain opening, and we got there and got it cleared up, within 24 hours. And the neighbors really, really appreciated that a lot. So thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, and for Commissioner Williams, there'll be a bronze plaque in each pothole. I just wanted you.
You told me silver. Okay, any other questions? Thank you. Mike, you have something? Okay.
The AC's issue, we're still driving to Flint, Saginaw, where are we getting there?
Bay City.
Bay City? So the issue is still is distance. Is Michigan Paving come around at all?
We're meeting, I can't speak to the Michigan Paving. I know we're still talking to them about pulling off their tanks next year, but we are meeting with I believe it's the company that's putting their new tank farm in today, to talk to them about ideas for at our place so that we can have on-site storage, the 2 tanks. So we're exploring all our options to make sure that we can minimize the costs associated and purely the time our staff has to drive there to get the material.
Yeah, I know the temperature's important and what a 3-hour trip or 2-hour trip each way or something.
They are meeting with Michigan Paving, I believe, today also, to talk about their tank farm that they're upgrading and adding. And then they'll come meet with us about a possibility of one for us too. And that way, it takes a long time to heat the AC, and then you might be able to, piggyback from one to the other as the other one's heating. So, a lot of options there.
Good, thank you.
And we wouldn't be the first county to do this, right? If we chose to.
Have the tanks.
Lenawee does.
Lenawee has
Right.
tanks also, yeah. And they,
Yeah. A lot of road commissions have heated tanks, especially for emulsion and stuff. I don't know how many have, like, to where they can superheat AC.
Right.
But that's the same principle and the same design, just a heavier heating element.
Okay, thank you. I think we're set. Okay, moving on to other business. Need to pay the claims. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. There's no other minutes, and the November reporting schedule is there. Takes us back to public comments. And we have a commentator.
I'm Mike Jester, Director of Public Safety for Blackman and Leone Township. I just want to thank the commission for their support in this new radio system. I think it's going to make it a lot safer for the first responders in this county, and ultimately the safety of the residents is going to be improved. But I appreciate your dedication to making this, come to fruition. So I appreciate that, and also comment that Under Sheriff Cool has done a tremendous amount of work on this whole project and is doing a good job. So I just want to thank you for that.
Okay, any other public comment? Hearing none, committee member comment. Done.
Mr. Chair, this isn't really a committee, for this committee, but just so our leadership is aware, my college schedule is going to make it very difficult for me to get back to the Human Affairs Agency's committee meeting. But on top of that, Region 2, I think I expressed to individuals that Region 2 is another one that I have to back off of. And I just want to make that public, just so individuals know that was, and so when you don't see me here later on this afternoon, that's the reason why. It's not, the fact of the matter is that looking at the agenda, it's going to be so quick. By the time I got here, you guys would be ultimately adjourned, and so I'm not going to try to get back from the college and then have to go back to the college afterwards. So I'm just conveying that information now.
Any other comments? We're adjourned.